welcome back to The Nuance. It has been a while since I have spoken to all of you, to all of my loyal followers here. I do get a couple of messages here and there, some questions in my Q&A boxes on Instagram, people asking, are you still doing the podcast? I am. We are still here. It has just been a little bit difficult to schedule these things out, to find, I don't want to even say interest, to find availability with those who have interest, because it takes 30 minutes to 60 minutes to record these. So been about 3 weeks since I did my last one, but I am joined today with another previous client of mine, Britt Lynch, who just reminded me how long ago it's been since we've worked together, how much time has passed, and it doesn't make any sense to me. 2 years ago now, or at least coming up on it. Do you remember the exact month that we stopped? Because I don't, and I don't even know if I want to know. If it's over 2 years, I'm going to be even more mind blown.
I think it's probably more like a year and a half, because it came to you late summer. It was after I had recovered from my broken wrist, and I was like, I'm just climbing a lot and I want to be strong. So I think it was probably December, 2 Decembers ago. So 2023.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Either way, this year will make it 2 years. It's still kind of
Right.
wild. But I do like that you mentioned kind of what was going on when we started working together, what you were dealing with or what you had just dealt with, which obviously bleeds into why you reached out, what we were working on, or what you wanted to accomplish then. So let's kind of walk through that whole process between then and now, because I'm very curious and interested as to what you are currently working on, what you're doing, but how that initiated the whole process and how it got you there. So with the broken wrist, with you climbing, I mean, that was not that you weren't doing any resistance training at all, right? But that was kind of your
Right.
modality of exercise at that time, right? You were consistently at the gym, so to speak, climbing. But we really started focusing on let's get you under the barbell. Let's start to build some muscle, build some strength, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I had, right before I'd come to you, I was in this transitionary phase of was a D1 athlete in college, did some stuff for the women's equestrian team at UGA, transitioned into this I guess you'd call it hybrid now. We didn't really call it that a couple years ago, but
Nobody did.
started.
That's just that's the word now, right? If
Yeah,
you do more than
that's a
one thing,
marketing
I guess
phrase.
you're a hybrid athlete
Exactly.
person.
Yeah. But essentially, started CrossFit just because I missed the team aspect of working out. I hadn't experienced that in a while. Started running half marathons and kind of did a little bit of back and forth. Didn't truly combine them. Found I got really burnt out just with CrossFit. I was actually a coach for a little while. Had my L1, had my nutrition certification, all these different things, and was finding that I was just reaching just this place of burnout and didn't really feel any stronger for sort of the what I was putting in, what I was getting out. And so I actually went on a snowboarding trip with friends, and first ran down the mountain, just clipped the back edge of my board and broke my wrist. Went through weird period of time where I was kind of shifting back to just traditional strength training, and was doing that modified, of course, because I believe it was actually my left wrist. So it was my weaker side too. So I had all of these thoughts and feelings about it's the first time I've been injured, and I haven't really combined modalities before, and I really just want to enjoy rock climbing, which was my kind of hobbyist pursuit at the time, and felt like I really took care of myself as I was transitioning out of that healing phase, and ended up reaching out to you just because I knew Alyssa just through CrossFit and Instagram, and yeah, you really took me through a true progressive overload muscle building phase. Had not ever really eaten at a surplus before, had not really managed my stress, really focused on the process versus the outcome, and it was a big shift for me.
Yeah, though it wasn't in a fairly brief period of time. I think that we were able to cover a lot of big rocks because, the training component was obviously really impactful because it was successful. You know what I mean? It was progressive. It
Right.
was productive. You got stronger, you built muscle, and we saw the fruits of the labor, so to speak, in that regard. But it also, in those discussions and in structuring everything around how do we make sure that this is optimized, I think it unraveled what really mattered, and what ultimately
Yeah.
you needed to focus on. Like, I think that may have been where you called rock climbing your hobbyist activity, where it's kind of like your attention went because it was enjoyable, but we unraveled what was kind of like a necessity in terms of not just, I mean, it's definitely health related and maybe not fitness related in terms of like exercise or working out, but the whole, life stress, work burdens, sleep, all of that stuff became almost our centralized focus, because the training piece was it was the easy part. You know what I mean? It was almost like a
Yeah.
mindless, like, yeah, I would program with what made sense with what the goals were, and then you just followed through with it. Everything
Yeah.
else was where it was really okay. Where can we make some meaningful change here, right? And so I hope that it's one thing for me to say that, right, as somebody who kind of like put some of that onto you or into your mind, or kind of like gave you the feedback in terms of what you were dealing with. But I hope that has been something that has stuck until now as well, that has helped you with the fitness pursuits that you currently have.
Yeah, I mean, now that we were talking about it, I think like the way that I think initially framed, like we had our onboarding call or sort of like discovery call, and how I kind of framed my goals were like, yeah, like I'd love to be like super yoked and strong and like be like a badass at what I'm doing. And also like, yeah, there's this like really busy period of time like coming up for work. And like I should probably like manage that better. And you were like,
Right, it was like an
hey, I
undertone,
see you.
almost like it doesn't really matter, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but it's what
You're like,
matters.
but it does. I actually every once in a while some of those like literally like late night videos at the gym will like come through of like where I'd send you movement videos, and I would look at some of the dates for some of those. And essentially what helped me execute on all of these things, it didn't just come down to like I did what you told me to do. I did do that. And also it we worked on the actual like the underlying reason why of like, hey, like Brit, the stress piece is there, and we need to kind of like get to that so she has the capacity and is empowered and has the capability to execute on these things that are the overlying goal, but not like the underlying goal. I mean, and essentially we some of the biggest learnings that I took away from that were we don't I didn't just somehow just start working out more. When I started working with you, it was, hey, like what do we have currently going on? What are systems that we can build to support that within what you're already doing? We're not gonna turn your whole world upside down because life is already like about to hit you pretty hard for a couple of consecutive months because of work. And it was okay, like repeat the system. If it supports you, repeat the system. And it got me to this place where it had me consciously aware of, okay, like what does future Brit need this week? I know that this is coming up. I have my systems that I'm executing. And it allowed me to like have this view of the horizon that didn't feel so overwhelming, that felt very manageable. It might have been tough and like, I didn't have a great workout every week, but I had the systems. So I felt supported. It minimized my stress. So I felt the capacity or the capability and the confidence to execute on things. And then at the end of the day, even if when I did the workout, or I had like took the walk when I didn't want to, or like ate my calories when I didn't think I needed to, the whether or not the outcome was exactly how I wanted it to be, I didn't care. Because to me, like the value is in actually feeling the support, the systems that I had created. So it was like, okay, cool. If it's not 100% today, like that's okay. I'm also human. Um, and it's allowed me to, I mean, even almost 2 years later, I still do a lot of the same things that we built upon.
Right. So, and a couple of things that come to my mind there with you just explaining that. First one, the biggest one, is that it's obviously, it's an ongoing, perpetual process, right? Like, there's never a singular system, plan, protocol that is like, this is what works. It's no, you have these priorities, you have these groups of things, these categories, these compartments of your life that need your time, focus, and intention. And you find ways to cover those rocks and to take care of those things. The how changes over the course of time. So it is a repeated like trial and error checks and balances system of, am I taking care of these things? Am I compartmentalizing in a, productive and healthy way? And when the next season of life comes, it's like you said, repeat the process. So the system can change, but it's creating that system and letting it evolve over time. And it can sound like so much work. And I know even when it comes to like tracking food in advance, right? Planning ahead
Yeah.
for what is going to come with, meals out or work events, holidays or whatnot. What type of eating opportunities or, obstacles are you going to face? That is overwhelming sometimes for some people to like think ahead. That process can be challenging, but doing it in the way that like I'm kind of just repeating what you said, but in a different way, allows you to almost be more present in the moment because you have, right? And that
Yeah.
opens up the capacity to be accepting of, well, I did all the things. It didn't go according to plan or the outcome wasn't 100% what I expected, but I'm not going to spiral because I'm more
Hmm.
present, because I've done that work, because I've allowed my systems to work for me. It makes you more composed. It makes you more poised, as opposed to if you're just like in the middle of all the chaos happening around you and you haven't done anything to contain it in some way, shape, or form, then you find yourself in that situation and it's game over. It's a
Yeah.
mental collapse, right? Emotion
Yeah.
takes over. But if you can stay poised, logical, composed, that's when you get through the busy seasons at work. That's when you get
Right.
through holidays or whatever it is and find yourself on the other end being like, sure, I wasn't perfect. And no, the outcome was not ideal either, but my systems didn't crumble. And so I'm still here. I just pick back up tomorrow and I didn't quit. And that's when you break away from or stop the pattern of stop, start, on, off, that whole
Yeah.
like restart thing that leads to burnout, right? That's why so many people, not that there's anything to do, I don't think there's a direct correlation between like CrossFit or anything, but those that kind of like go through these seasons of like, oh, I started doing Orange Theory and then I started doing
Yep.
CrossFit and then I started doing, now it's High Rocks. If there's always this next thing that's like you go all in on, but then find yourself burnt out and then stop and then restart the new thing. Like, what if you just never had to completely stop? And so
Yeah.
sounds like that's kind of what has happened. Like you have never really had to pump the brakes completely and stop altogether. From a fitness standpoint, where has that left you now? Weight training, rock climbing, marathon, like what's the main what are you doing now? And how are you handling that? Like how have you taken that whole like systematic approach to stress management, like work life balance? What does that look like for you now?
Yeah. So I guess to like give greater context to everyone who might be listening, essentially, like we our coaching concluded, or your coaching of me concluded December, 2 Decembers ago, so
Hmm.
end of 2023. I went on a nearly month long international vacation where I did not work out, did not, wasn't in any of my like normal typical systems. Had a lot of life change happen that year. I ended up moving in with somebody and changed jobs, kind of like one after another, all of these things. And more life transition at the end of last year, separated, ended up like becoming single again, moving into a new place, and my goals changed. So for the kind of like year and a half that we've been keeping up with each other on social media and just like here and there, I was specifically more or less like taking the templates that you used for me for my weightlifting and just like married that into the climbing that I continue to do, and made volume and weight adjustments when I added running back in. So I believe I added running back in very slowly, very carefully, beginning of fall last year. So like September, I'd gone on another trip, I'd come back and I was like, hey, I think I want to kind of shift some stuff around. I'd kind of noticed a little bit of just like mental fatigue going to the gym, of like the only thing that I was really thinking about was like sets and reps and like things like that. And I just needed a little bit more novelty, like just enough, not too much, like not too much change.
Right. So you enjoy it again, or that it can
Yeah.
almost become mindless. The people talk about that
Yeah.
runner's high, you know what I mean? Right? That it's just like
Yeah.
you are able to shut it off.
Yeah. It's,
Or yeah, I mean, I think that's the best way of putting it, shutting it off. I actually had a recent client who started picking up, or a client recently started to pick up running, and one of the things that she described was it being different than lifting is that in between sets and whatnot, your mind is able to kind of like what am I doing for work, or like
Yeah.
your attention gets pulled into other areas. Whereas like if you're just on a run, it's kind of like a constant, this is what I'm doing. So for the
Yeah.
20 minutes to an hour, whatever it is, you're like, this is, my mind is here and nowhere else.
Yeah.
It's more
And it's
enjoyable in that way.
yeah, and that's like, and even I think something that just as like a side note, not to jump down a rabbit hole, but I think having been in the gym for like 10 plus years now, like in different degrees and aspects, like CrossFit, Globo Gym, home gyms, like there's a difference between like when you like get in your car and you go to the gym and you're around other people, there are these like layers of distraction, thoughts, considerations, like logistics that you kind of have to pay attention to and like be mindful of, and also like be present for your workout. So there's a lot to kind of work through sometimes, and like, you know, some days are better than others, but like your client was saying, and how essentially how I would describe it too, is it allows for this like very present meditative sort of state to kind of like unfold. And it was something that more or less like movement has always been like something that I preferred to do, to like have the brain space to like think about things, consider, you know, what I'm thinking about and stuff like that. And like the gym is also a great place for that. But there's something about the expansiveness of like moving through space, like whether that's like outside or
Like
like,
the
you know, sometimes,
continuity of it, right? Like it's
yeah.
not
And
start
it's,
stop like a set would be, or whatever. It's just
yeah. Yeah. And you get to a point where like the miles go by however quickly you're moving, but it's either a shut off or it's a meditative state that you kind of get. Like it's not it's I mean essentially it can be a flow state, but started desiring more of that in my life.
right.
And again, major transitions like coming out of that, and I just dedicated the time and the space to like at least go out like twice a week. And it became this like, okay, like slow and steady, we're just getting time on our feet, getting out there. We're going to have to be slow in order to get fast, like need present day me, because present day me means that I get a future me too and what I'm doing. Ended up just like talking to a bunch of friends about things, and I hadn't last time I like ran a race was a half marathon in 2018. So like 6-ish years ago. And I'd wanted to check off the marathon distance as just like a, hey, would love to do that. And there's something very attractive, or has always been really attractive to me, is just like the willingness to be in a place of execution consistently for an extended period of time. Like that sort of goal has always been attractive. Like
And
in
you mean
CrossFit,
like leading up to it to train for it, or do you mean like literally 26 miles is like a long
both.
time?
Yeah, so it's like both. So it's the process, and then the opportunity to like execute all of the work you put into the process. So, you know, you can compare that to like training for a weightlifting meet or training for a high rocks or things like that. And yeah, just talk to a bunch of friends about it, and have a friend who lives in London, and he's like, hey, like if you can't get into like an Abbott major or like want to come over here, he was like, I have a marathon for you. And he's like, I won't run it with you because I'm faster than you, but he's like, I'll do the trip with you. And I was like, ah, yeah, maybe, probably, yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that I decided that November of last year. So like, still was not in a place. Well, I won't say that. Was definitely still in a place of adjusting to a new period of time in my life. The holidays were coming up, and I was like, cool, I have a year. That's plenty of time. Um, and that's kind of like where I'm up until now. Now I'm about to run a half marathon distance next weekend. So that's about, how many months has it been since November? About
Or
5 months, 4 or 5 months. Yeah. So
so that is in November of this year.
the marathon will be December 1st. So like end of
Okay, so
November.
at the end of that, and that's an overseas, another big trip out of the country to go run it.
Yeah.
You have got 9 months left. I'm assuming, well, maybe it hasn't had to like a whole bunch to this point, but maybe moving forward, like resistance training, frequency and or volume, like you said, intensity scaling back so that you
Yeah.
have that capacity for recovery. I mean, you just even just mentioning that you did that when you started adding running in, period, is
Yeah.
falls under that category of stress management as a whole, right? Because there's like only so much we can do. If you add something in, something's got to give, right? You kind of have to like
Yeah.
rearrange things. So with the new job and whatnot, scheduling day to day, are we like Monday through Friday and it's fairly chill? Do you have like when you're getting your training in, how much is that impacting your ability to train, recover, be zen
Yeah.
now?
Um, yeah. So I do want to give the caveat that I have a couple of things that like really play to my benefit that I no longer have to worry about. So I am single again. I live alone. There's a lot that I can control and manage, which is like amazing, right? Like I don't walk through the door at the end of the day if I'm out somewhere and it's like 9 o'clock and there's like someone sitting on my couch, like
Right, you're
needing me or wanting
obligated
to
to
talk
give
to
your
me.
energy again. Yeah, you can just shut it
Right.
off.
Yeah. So there's a degree to which how I kind of like build and plan everything out is like I have my like non-negotiables, like got to work my job so I can pay my rent and, pay for a coach coming up soon and take care of other things. I also work part-time jobs too. So I have these like blocks of time that I can't necessarily change, but I have flexibility. So I can choose when I pick up an extra shift or when I don't. I can choose how I want to plan out. Like I've made the transition from like evening workouts to morning workouts, and that's taken some time, but it's something that I'm adjusting to in order to balance my evenings to be more of a like, hey, like when work's done, I can
Decompress.
go. Yeah. And what baffles a lot of people when I talk about this is our brains and bodies are not designed to like sit at a desk for 8 hours a day, like being pure focused flow state. It's not humanly possible. Like there's a drop off point, right? What I know to be true about that and how I manage my stress is like, okay, like by the time like 5, 6 o'clock rolls around, it's time to like kind of progressively like shut off the lights, shut it down. I've like minimize extra work, take a lot of like mental load and strain off of me. So a lot of times, like, again, those systems come back into play, right? So, like, if I've, got my day going essentially the way that I've set it up to, by the time 6 is here, I hit a walk, half my dinner's kind of prepped, I piece it together. I'll call a friend or like do something really low key. And like, I feel like you've mentioned this on Instagram, this week or last about how like the evening is like you're fully decompressing and really taking that time to help regulate so that you're also like ready to sleep and like giving your body the best chance to recover as best you can within the constraints that you have.
Yeah, you're speaking, and I know that this is not. I'm glad that you just came up right out and said like, I know that not everybody can do this. Basically, like
Yeah.
people have kids, people work late into the evening, whatever it may be, right? Like it's not. It's
Yeah.
very easy to kind of say like, shut it down and go to bed early. You know what I mean? If you want like the best results,
Yeah.
but best life, basically. I mean, I do think that across the board, like uniformly, that is true. It's just not possible for everybody. But yeah, I mean, I wake up and work at 4:30 in the morning now because I have a daughter that I'm home with all day long and I don't get
Yeah.
much uninterrupted time outside of that throughout the day. I mean, I can, but not like it's my big block of time. But I
Yeah.
did that for years prior anyway. Like I've been waking up at 4:30, I don't know, since 2016 or around then, starting my day then, and has
Hmm.
like it allows me to do exactly what you're saying. Like you get all of the productive stuff that you need to get
Yeah.
done early, quote unquote, so that by the time, yeah, it is like, okay, I'm going to have dinner and then shut it down. Basically, like the last couple of hours of
Yeah.
your day are really unwinding. And I just posted recently that my nighttime routine is kind of like once Alba goes down to bed, like my unwind is dinner and then watching a couple of TV shows on the couch and falling asleep. Sure, that might not be the most optimal thing in the world. It's the blue light and whatnot, but like to me, that's that my brain turning off. You know what I mean? For some people, it might be stretching, journaling, meditating, or whatnot. But to me, like work's done. If I'm on my phone, it's not like creating content. It's like consuming, it's like leisurely stuff. I'm done by with work. I mean, I have to be done basically now by like 5 p.m. because that's when dinner, bath, reading stories, like it all starts at that point in time. But that basically, that's again, it comes back to that's my system, that's my structure of I got to plan things out so I get it all checked off before that period of time so that I can have that decompress. And that's exactly what you're saying. Looks different for you than it does for me, but it's
Yeah.
still the same thing. It's the same behavior, just different actions, right?
Well, and what's funny, not what's funny, it's what I think like makes sense is like when we worked together, like not even 2 years ago, my routine like very different. Like I was again, like I was single at that time. I lived alone. I had a lot of things in my control, but like there are some things then I wasn't doing. And like what was cool, and like I'm gonna stroke your ego here for a second of just like working with you as a coach, it was I didn't check everything off my list and you were like, hey, big dog, it is still good enough and it's still worth it. And it's still edging you toward where you want to be because we're in the midst of like understanding that the process is most important versus the specific outcome. Because you can do everything right. Like I can have my routine so dialed, I look like that crazy guy who's like obsessed with like staying as young as humanly possible for
Oh,
as
yeah, I
long as
forget
humanly
his name.
possible. I don't know his name, but I can do all of those things and I can still like be an enemy to myself. I can still be wrapped up in a lot of perfectionism and still think that like doing all of these really good things are not good enough. And that in itself creates more stress.
Yep. That might be the if there's a way to summarize or kind of like encapsulate the main work that I try and do that's really hard to kind of talk about and discuss and transparently to market on social
Yeah.
media these days and out there is that work, breaking through, shifting your perspective around, altering your mindset so that you can truly be accepting of, and I think accepting is a loaded term, but like believe really truly deep down that good enough is okay and it's not failure, because that's so many people's downfall is good enough. By definition, good is a positive, has a positive connotation to it, but good enough to perfectionists equals failing. It equals not good enough because you didn't hit 100% or like that doesn't make any sense. And it's such a difficult belief system that's rooted in unraveling that and rewiring those thought processes is like not sexy work by any means. And it's uncomfortable. And it requires me to kind of like ask people to reflect on things as to kind of like, why do you feel that way? Think about an outcome that, would happen in a different scenario. And what's the true difference? Why do you care about there being a difference? Is there actually a difference? Nobody wants to do that work because it's really not
Yeah.
fun and it is uncomfortable. But for those listening, like that's what gets you to the place where you can then see that my system can change. My behaviors can stay the same, even if my actions look completely different. And again, like you said, at the end of the day, what that ends up doing is removing this stress component of your life that you're putting on yourself subconsciously without even knowing it. That opens up your capacity to be more present, to be more mindful, and handle life's chaos with more poise, more composure. And it allows you to kind of like, I don't know, you're just more able to go do stuff, you know what I mean? And you have the
Yeah.
capacity to do it. It's rewarding. It's just not the obvious things that people look at from like a fitness, health and fitness coach. It's not a training program. It's not a diet.
Yeah.
It's mindset work, really.
Yeah. And that's like the the whole mindset piece is once you have someone that you connect with, and this is like a I don't know, I've talked to a lot of friends about this recently. There's a process that you go through, of course, to like, find your person, find a therapist, find like a new, like really good friend that you need. Like you go through a process of course, putting yourself out there, getting to know people and getting past the like, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to do? Because when we initially first talked, it was you listening enough and holding enough space for me to really kind of like catch some things that I was saying of like, oh yeah, like work's coming up, it's gonna be super stressful, teehee. It's and you were like, no, like that's actually like underneath what I think is probably going on. It's not that Britt can't execute or can't do something well. It's something underneath. And then it's being willing to, which I think is just like a lot of people's work is just bravery and like addressing like, hey, like why do I think this way? Like can I sit with that? Can I hold that? Can I consider that? And then can I close the gap between considering it and actually doing something about it? Because thinking about doing the thing or making a plan for doing the thing or creating a new routine to do the thing is not actually doing the thing. So even when, gosh, I think I think I was sick for a week. There was a full week where, like, I did not work out when we coached or
I,
when you
I think
coached
I
me,
remember this. Yeah.
and I couldn't work out. I could hardly go on a walk. Some, like, awful flu something. I was out of work for a straight week. I have not been that sick in a long time, and there were multiple days where I think you literally had to ask me to, like, "Hey, like, I just want you to sit with this and, like, do what you know how to do." And I was like, "Oh, this is really uncomfy. I don't like this." And it was something that I had to get you challenged me to get comfortable with, like, my just humanness and my own, like, limitations. So much so that I was just like, I got to this place where I truly became comfortable with this week is not going to matter in the greater context of your life. Like, why don't you just like chalk it up to like watching a really good show and like letting life just continue on? And like, you can be okay with just like sitting in the fact that you have limitations and like you've pushed really hard for a long time. And there are points where like you have to be smarter for like the good of yourself versus like the sake of just like being able to check a box. Because of that, I believe I started my half marathon, like I started my half marathon block this year. The first week of it, I was sick for an entire week. I couldn't do
Of course.
anything. And it was like, okay, like I took it, I had a greater capacity to take it a day at a time, but I understand that a lot of people have to take it like a moment at a time or an hour at a time. And originally when I was sick for that week when we worked together, it was every hour. I was like, man, this like
Spiraling a little bit.
blows. Yeah, like I believe the kids call it crashing out now. I was crashing out like every hour, and it was not helping me being sick, but I was getting the reps in of doing what I know I needed to do, and it increased that capacity by like doing the thing. So when I was sick for a week this year, every day I was just like I woke up and I was like, well, still not feeling 100%, but like we're going to do what we know how to do, and I'm going to trust myself, honestly.
I love that you just said those two words, because that was what, for the
Yeah.
past 2 minutes in my mind, I'm like, everything that you're describing right now is me just telling the people that I work with, or challenging them, encouraging them. Can you, the reason that you crash out, the reason that you feel all of this frustration, this worry, this anxiousness, is because you are not trusting yourself. You are
Yes.
putting on this identity of yourself that, like, I'm not going to be able to pick it back up. If I fall off,
Yeah.
I'm done. It's this self-limiting belief about who you are, your capacity, your
It's the
identity. But
black and white.
right, if you just trust yourself, as simple as that, the moment doesn't matter, the day doesn't matter, like you said, the week itself doesn't matter. Big in the grand scheme of things, right? We're talking about drops, arguably even a month or a year. And that might, from personally, it might have been the most challenging thing I've gone through in my recent fitness journey, or like how it's a transition since becoming a dad. Like, ever since
Yeah.
Alba was born and getting less sleep and being a little bit more drained, a little bit more tired, I've been more injured, in pain, less capacity. Like, things have happened so much more slowly for me. And in the moments of like, oh, I hurt this, pulled this muscle again, or oh, this, I'm feeling weak again. Like, it might seem like it's over for me. I'm done. I had a, injury that I dealt with for almost an entire year straight, and up until like the past couple of months. In that time, I probably would have complained. I probably would have created an identity around myself. But now, 5 months
Yeah.
out of it, I can look back and say that entire year, doesn't really matter all that much. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I
Yeah.
did less. Yes, I didn't train as much. Probably lost a little bit of fitness and lost a little bit of muscle, whatever. But I got through it. It's over, and I've moved on. Didn't really matter all that much. So we're talking about moments, days, weeks. You could even consider years of your life, whether it's because of a kid, transition of a
Mhm.
relationship, even people going through like marriage and then divorce, like big things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard now. Grand scheme of things, nothing matters all that much. You know what I mean? Can you trust yourself
Yeah.
to get through it and to keep going. That's where most people
Yeah.
struggle. And again, that's the work that nobody truly know. Like that comes off as a negative way. Like nobody wants to do this work. Like no, nobody wants to do it because it's hard. It is uncomfortable. But when you can start to do it and keep doing it, right? It's not like when you got sick this time when you started your half marathon training. It's not like it was easy to accept it, right? You were
No.
just in a better position to do so. It's always work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that I've been like thinking a lot about recently is like, I haven't trained for a race in over 6 years. So things are going to come up, like old patterns and ways are going to come up, old thoughts and feelings are going to come up. Like, you know, first hard run of my block, I was like, who the hell are you, Brittany? Like thinking you're gonna like PB a half. You haven't run the distance in 6 years. And like, yeah, you might be acquiring fitness rather quickly in a short period of time, but like, are you gonna be as fit as you once were? And you start to develop an awareness, not just like you don't arrive to a point and it just stops. Like people are like, oh my God, like you're just a runner again. And I'm like, no, I'm actually not. Like these things come up, I just have a greater awareness and I know quickly how to like
Right. You can
action.
catch it.
Yeah. And it's what I also tell people is it's not that I catch it and like I nip it in the bud. I like catch it and like hold space for it. I'm like, hey, so like big fucking deal. Like what if I could go down to Savannah next weekend for a half and I could run a 2 hour half. That'd be amazing. Wouldn't be a PB. I wouldn't be as fit as I once was, but if I was really concerned with like the outcome had to happen in order for me to like support the idea that like I'm fit enough to be a runner again, I could call
You
my
could
whole
do it.
marathon training for the year. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I could absolutely like I could be a whole lot meaner about it. Like I've been there before, but this time it's okay, cool. Like you are having so much more fun training for this. You're an ally to yourself. You're not an enemy to yourself anymore. Like it'll come up and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, we're gonna back that up. Think about that for a second. We're gonna reframe it because I know the additional stress and harm that it causes me to like be in that space. And I don't want to be in that space anymore. And so if anything, my capacity has grown to accept like gray area of like, there were technically like my peak week. So like I built up in mileage and now I'm tapering before my race. My peak week was awful. Like two back to back, like a speed workout at the track that like I didn't hit my pacing. I had an easy run that felt like the longest run of my entire block and a long run that was like okay. And I was like, well, that was that. And to hold space for like the bare minimum, it's still good enough. It's that like nuance piece of it may not be your ultimate best, it may not be your absolute worst, but that's like a lot of what life is. And like, why not enjoy that versus like pining for the past or the future when it's just going to make like you missing out on like what could be really good right in front of you.
Yeah, I think if there's a way to summarize all of this,
Yeah.
awareness leads to acceptance, which leads to being mindfully present. And if you can, be present in the here and now, you with the capacity to kind of like again make it through the chaos that is life, you keep going. That's what sets you up for success, to sustain all of it, as well as again the ever evolving systems that allow you to maintain behaviors even when the actions taken within them vary from season of life to season of life. And it's always another thing too, to summarize it, is it's always challenging, right? I think that if there's something that people I think that there's a destination that people feel like they're missing. They're like, oh, I haven't, like, why
Mm,
can't I ever just get to this point where it's I'm that person, or it's easy for me
yeah.
now, or this is what I do? Like, no, it's like next month there'll be another moment in time where you're like, am I even a runner? You know what I mean? Like, why was that so hard? Why did I just suck so bad? Like, you're gonna question it all the time.
Yeah.
Keeping space for that, allowing you to feel the things and then move forward. That's it's a skill, I guess is a good way of putting it. It's
Yeah.
not like an innate thing for everybody. You have to kind of develop that.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, what you were saying just now reminded me of something I was actually talking about with a friend of mine the other day. It's like, if you're talking about and actioning, like, I want to work on like loving myself better, like showing up for myself better. You're actually already there and you're doing it, which is pretty cool. Like, if you think about, if you're working on something and you're taking steps and actions toward it, no matter like how they look, if you're continually moving forward, you're already doing the thing that you're working on.
That, oh my goodness, the stages of change model that I love. I think that being aware, again, it comes back to awareness, but awareness of what stage that you're in, right? Like, are you in the action stage already but don't believe that you are? Or the vice versa of that, I think, is often the downfall of people, is you're
Mm-hmm.
really in the contemplation or the pre-contemplation stage and you think you're in the action stage when you're not. Those two realities, while opposing, leave you in the
Yeah.
same position where it's like you're going to feel frustrated, things aren't clicking, things aren't connected, and that's why you feel like a failure. But yeah, once you become aware and acknowledge where you are at now, you can then move into the next stage or avoid regressing to previous ones.
Yeah.
Again, it's all mindful perspective work that gets you to that awareness, which leads to the consistency and repetitive action and behavior, which is how you win.
Yeah.
You stop stopping, right? Like that's how you win.
Yeah. I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, bring it on.
What are steps people can take to start that work of like being mindful of what they're doing while they're working towards something? Like, how would you encourage people to take steps to increase their mindfulness and action to support improving something?
I think taking as descriptive of an audit as you can when you find yourself in those moments of perceived failure, when you find yourself frustrated as to like, I'm not doing it, it's not working for me. Like when you feel like you're about to revert or quit or throw in the towel and
Yeah.
say, this isn't for me, or I'm not succeeding. Taking a really descriptive audit of kind of what's going on, what actions are you trying to take, what are you even aiming for? And most people might think like, oh yeah, well, if your actions aren't in alignment with that goal, then that makes sense. That's why you're not failing. But the way that I really like to look at that is when you have those kind of things, quote unquote, written out and laid out in front of you, you can be
Mm-hmm.
really honest with yourself of like, do I actually really even care about what I'm expecting
Yeah.
to happen? Like the goal that I'm not achieving, is that
Yeah.
something you truly value, truly want? Or are the things that you're actually doing in line with something else that you do truly value and care about? Because again, it comes back to that acknowledgement of where you actually are and what your values and cares are. And there's nothing wrong. Again, it sounds so negative to say something like, you don't care enough about this thing. That's the very standard, like life coach, like you need to care more, be more disciplined. Like if you don't care about something, that's okay. You're allowed to
Mm-hmm.
choose what you value, what you care about. When you
Yes.
find that what gets people in trouble is expecting to act in alignment with something that isn't actually a deep rooted value. So that type of audit allows that kind of like to unravel. And again, that makes people uncomfortable because it's like, if you find yourself in that situation, you're like, I've been wasting my
Mm.
time then or whatnot, which yes, arguably is true. But if you don't ever come to that place, you might just live the rest of your life that way, like trying to like this
Yeah.
endless pursuit of achieving something that you don't actually really want in the first place. And how's that going to feel? Who are you if that's how you're living your life, you know? So I don't know if that's a step, but that's like the first thing, you know what I mean? Like if you have to get to
Yeah.
that place, then it's what changes. Okay, realign those values, identify what the true value is, what you really care about, and then what's parts of your system need to be to kind of like manipulate a little bit so they do align with that outcome that you want or the life that you want to live. You know, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be a health and fitness related goal. It could be a relationship, career, and any of it,
Yeah.
right? Not that I'm a
Yeah.
life
I
coach, is
mean,
like I know all the answers.
no, but it's I think what's hard about marketing that or selling that, like to me is like the like what a true coach does. Again, I'm not trying to stroke your ego, but it's I knew you were going to answer that question that way because it speaks to like you're a values based, like value driven coach, and that's how you coach. So of course you're going to start with like, hey, cool, cool, cool. Love that you want to do this thing. Let's look at like what's actually important to you and like take an audit of that because that's actually like data based. Like we're taking like
Right. To me, that's
it's
evidence that,
qualitative.
yeah.
Yeah. Like it's evidence of like what's shaping what's going on right now. And then we'll look at like, okay, like it either aligns with your values or it doesn't. And if it does, great, then we need to look at some other stuff. If it doesn't, then we need to realign on like what's important and then we'll look at steps.
Right. And that conversation more often than not turns people away. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I do that day one when before somebody signs up
Yep.
to work with me, you know, on a consult call, I will be straight up honest and say, you're saying you want this. I
Mhm.
won't tell people what they actually want. That's not what I'm saying. But I'll say, well, I think we need to start here or do this first. This is how I would, you know, what I would recommend. And that's not oftentimes isn't the immediate answer of what somebody expects or wants, where it's like, oh, well, you need to do this workout or you need to, this is the
Right.
diet for you. Then they're like, no, I don't want that. I want the answers. I don't
Mhm.
give people answers. I ask more
Yeah.
questions than anything else. You know what I mean? If my coaching is more like holding up a mirror than it is
Mhm.
like actually telling people what to do, you know, and that's not an easy thing to sell because it's not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? Looking
Yeah.
in the mirror is hard
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean, it's having you as the coach, like having the bravery and the confidence and the capacity to be like, hey, I'm here to help you along on the journey. And I see where you want to go. I truly want to help you get there. And I want to help you sustain that. I think at one point, like when we kind of got to the end of our time together, more or less, I think you were like, hey, it's time for you to fly, be free. Like
Right. Like
you've
I knew
totally
it.
got it.
Yeah. And
Yeah, like
I
you've
just
totally
needed you
got
to
it.
know it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And it
Hey, I appreciate you stroking the ego here. I could hear people tell me how great I am all day long,
well and
or how
that's
good I am at
it's
what I do.
yeah, yeah, and it I mean, I talk about this a lot with people because, someone actually said this to me recently of like, "Man, like, Brittany, like, if I was just like you, if I just had all my shit together and I just, like, did and did and did," and I was like, "Hey, while my ego loves to see that type of compliment coming, like, I love that, thank you, and also, it's not I didn't just, like, wake up I didn't just, like, jump up out of bed one day and decide to do all of this. It's a lot of And a lot of people, I would say like 8 times out of 10 are like, "No, like you're just like super motivated and disciplined." And I'm like, "No, I've done a lot of work and I've had a lot of people be really patient with me and help show me, like really just kind of help guide me that have supported my own autonomy and growth to do it for myself." And what's cool is like we're very similar in like on our discovery call and like through a lot of your content, like very like anxiously leaning, like perfectionist mindset, like athlete background, like all this stuff. And that's what drew me to you as a coach. But you also wanted to do the actual, like the true work of like getting down to like what it is that like made me tick to empower me to be able to like make the autonomous decisions for myself and to have confidence in that for the rest of my life. And so when people ask me like, oh, like who do you work with, like I of course refer them to you. And of course, like not many of them like follow through on it, but there are like the few people that like catch enough of like my why of like, hey, this is what I actually did. And I tell them how long it's been sustained. They're like, wait, that's different. I want that. And I'm like, cool. It's not going to be like me. You're not going to be like
Yeah.
me. I want you
It'll
to be
look
like
different.
you. It'll look different, but it is so worth it because if anything, like now I just want to go do like big, bad shit because I want to. And like, if I don't fully do it or like achieve a certain way, like it doesn't matter, which is cool. Like, which is, I don't know, like it's just allowed me to have a lot more like joy and presentness in my life because like we actually got down to it versus like you could have just like given me templates and like check my macros every week and be like, good job, Brittany, blah, blah, blah. And like I probably would have gotten a similar result, but not a
Right.
lasting result.
Physically. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a client check in or respond to a message today saying she had a conversation with somebody at a gym, and the person was like, we let's be honest, we come here so that we can eat more food or something. And her response
Mm-hmm.
was, you know, well, I mean, I come here so that I can live. I think verbatim it was live life bigger than I ever imagined I could, or something like that. And I'm like, that's if I had any influence at all at somebody looking at it that
Yeah.
way, taking their health and fitness and expanding it upon like, this is just allowing me to live bigger.
Yeah.
That's, that's why I do this. You know what I mean? Or at least it's become my why now. Transparently, when I first got into like training people and coaching, it was because I was the physique competitor who could like get super shredded. You know what I mean? I just kind of fell into it in that way. Over the years, it's like, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older. Maybe it's because I have a child now. I don't know. Like, life changes, right? Your perspective shifts and changes. And it's
Yeah.
like, not that I don't care about getting people physical results, because that's not
Right.
true. They just don't matter if they're not paired with the appropriate mindset as well. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you
Yeah.
solidifying that, and kind of stroking the ego there in terms of that, because it's really rewarding, honestly, to see that, actually to see somebody live it. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I mean,
appreciate
it's
it, and I'm
being
glad
able
that
to,
that's helping you. Hopefully it continues to help you between now and the 1st of December. You know what I mean? When you
yeah.
finish the marathon and you're kind of like, yeah, in no way, shape, or form was that perfect. Yeah, I had to adjust and question and sit with all of these feelings 100 times over, maybe not 100, but countless times
Yeah.
over. But you still keep going, you still do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like I mean, I think it kind of wraps, like, it just wraps our whole conversation. Like, it's, you want to be able to, like, hold the dualities of life and not crash out. Like, everything matters and, like, nothing matters. Like, that whole spectrum of, like, today, like, hitting my macros, like, doing my workout, like, matters.
Hmm.
And I think you posted, you've been taking a lot of more, like, just like doing a lot more photography, and like I've enjoyed like seeing that on your feed, and you like posting about like, yeah, like I was editing this like video and these photos of this bald eagle and I did have my workout, like this mattered today. And
Right.
it's,
When life presents
yeah,
itself, live it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And that's, I don't know, that's the, to me that's the beauty and the freedom of learning how to take care of yourself and like manage and do all of these things so you can like get all of this like goodness and like rad shit out of life for like for however long we're here, because like as far as we know it, we get to do it one time.
Right. And it might
So
end today. You know what I mean? Like, you
yeah.
truly do not know. So
Yeah.
yeah, how can you make it through the time that you do have without crashing out? Like, that's the
Yeah.
goal, right? For the youngins listening,
The young
like,
folk.
that's the goal, is not to lose a certain amount of weight, look a certain way, have a certain body fat percentage. It's to live your life without crashing out every day, every week. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's life, not the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and filling me in, and give me something to, look out for and look forward to. I mean, I see you posting more and more content of your own as well too, with like, not
Yeah.
all just about like the runs and whatnot, but I see them when they pop up, of like you going and doing your runs. So as those continue to expand and you get into, when did you say the next like 13-mile half marathon run is? So soon,
Yeah,
right?
the half is next weekend, so it's the first weekend in April in Savannah, and then I'll probably do another race before I run
Another
The
half.
Valencia Marathon. Yeah, probably another half.
So very soon you will be pushing like, what, 15-mile runs? Like, how high do you get
Yeah.
up when you do long ones for the marathon training? Like, it'll be up there, right?
Yeah, so, like, typically, like, what's, like, kinda, like, general for, like, when you're in a marathon block is you get up to, like, you know, on the elite end, you're, like, nearing 100-mile weeks. I will not be in 100-mile weeks, but, like, 20-mile long runs, like mileage will be like past the 30s, 40s, maybe in the 50s for a week. That'll be specifically in the fall. But
Okay, still a while
what
away.
I'm a, yeah, so like still a while away, but like essentially what I'm headed into next, and I'm actually like talking to a few like run specific coaches right now, is like being in a like a fitness like maintenance building phase, like similar to like how like we've worked together and how I've done their programming, is like, yes, I'm like training for a race right now, but we're going to take some of like the mental fatigue off of like training to race, to like, let's like work on improving, like adapt, like you're adapting to higher mileage, you're adapting to different speed work, you're adapting to like accumulating that sort of volume and like getting stronger in that way. And then we'll layer on like the really big distance later in the year.
Right. That makes sense.
So
But I'm excited to see, keep following along when those come up here in the next couple of months.
yeah, yeah,
And
me too.
For everybody else listening who's still here now that we're an hour in, thank you for sticking around. But as this conversation clearly lays out, this stuff is nuanced. Everybody's different. There's no right answers. There's no one way to go about anything when it comes to your health and fitness. There's no right answers. There's just nuance. Thanks for coming on, Britt. I'm John Knoll. Thanks for listening.